The Battle of Westport was an important battle in Missouri history and was the biggest battle of the Civil War on the west side of the Mississippi River. There were 30,000 soldiers in total. It was fought on October 23, 1864, and the state was completely split. Half wanted to be a free state, and the other half wanted to be a slave state, which caused war. The Union was on the free side while the Confederates weren't. The Confederates started a raid in hopes that the campaign to keep slavery would stay in their favor. General Curtis was the leader of the Union Army who had to stop General Price's raid. General Price was the leader of the Confederate Army and had 10,000, while General Curtis had 15,000, which means General Curtis had an advantage. Prior to the Battle of Westport, there was a man named George Thoman who was born in Ingersheim, Alsace, France, on November 13, 1819. It was said that he migrated over here from Germany because it was a great time for farmers to make a lot of money in Westport.
Where he's coming from. This is the environment he's coming from. He comes here, and his brother, who is a couple years younger than he, has already immigrated in 1854 and come through the same path. A number of Germans were immigrating not through New York, but they were coming to New Orleans. The reason being is that the railroads were still a little sketchy and so forth, so it's easy to go by boat to New Orleans, go up the Mississippi River. Some of the people came to Illinois, crossed from St. Louis, and stayed there, and then some of them migrated in the late 1830s to here. And just down the hill from us, where we're sitting, was a large grape vineyard operated by a fellow by the name of Hornet.
It was then when the Confederates didn't want the Germans to be taking land from people in Westport. Germans also hated the idea of slavery and were completely against it. George wanted to stop the Confederates. At the time, General Curtis was fighting at Swan Creek and General Price's army was pushing them back. Curtis pushed them 2 times straight on to attack Price's army, but it wasn't working. He needed another strategy.
What had happened preceding that was that earlier in the morning, like at sunup, the Federals had left Brush Creek, gone up that slope, gone as far south as Warren. So they've gone several miles. And what the Confederates' defensive plan was, we bring them in, and then we ambush them, basically. They come in, they've extended their line far south, and then we counterattack and push them. And so they had been very successful. The Confederates had been very successful in that, and they pushed all the Federal troops off of the high ground here on the south side of Brush Creek.
General Curtis found George Thoman on his farm. George went up to General Curtis and gave him some reconnaissance about the area where the soldiers were. He told the general that there was a creek bed at Swan Creek that allowed them to get behind the Confederates. They were not prepared for the element of surprise, and it ended up being a Union victory.
Curtis finds Thoman out south of town here in this mile between Westport and Brush Creek, and gets information from him as a local on the ground who knows where the stuff's at, finds out about this creek called Swan Creek.
After the hard-fought battle, George Thoman went back to his regular life of being a grape farmer. He died on March 11, 1907, and was buried in Forest Hill Cemetery, right next to General Joseph O. Shelby, which was ironic since he was a Confederate soldier that he helped defeat. He was a common grape farmer who had made such an impact in the battle. He is gone, but he will never be forgotten.